That's actually a tune that's starting to stick in my head almost all day now.
Man, it's like the
Yeah.
hold music. When I remember that, like it was like that kind of. They had the shaker. I think it was only a
Yeah.
via phones. Those are my good old days. That whole music, man. It was There we go. So
The best hold music is when you're on with the government and or any major facility where you're on like Rogers or Bell, and it's the music, and then after 45 minutes they come on and say, "Dear valued customer, your call means a lot to us. We'll be right with you." And an hour and a half later, it's still, "Dear valued customer,
I
your
thought you were
call
gonna
means
say
a lot."
you love the government's hold music because I always thought it was you wait for 5 minutes and then they hang up on you. You know that was the
Well, it's usually 45 minutes and they hang up on you. But I
there we
wasn't going
go.
to go there just in
There
case,
we go.
somebody from the government's watching, then all of a sudden I get audited and shit. I'm not going to do that. But
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
they're
But
not watching the podcast, man.
yeah. Well, you never know. You never know. They might be trolling us, Ryan. They might be trolling us. But
Good old trolls,
uh,
man. Trolls.
yeah, that infamous hold music. Love it. Elevator music. What's going on, Ryan? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing spectacular. I'm ready for data day. Felt like getting back in the groove of this, and I would be. I feel like there's only one person who's feeling better than I am today, and that's probably Kylian Mbappe, the French soccer player who was offered $1 billion, Dan, for 1 year of playing in Saudi Arabia. So everybody
What?
is $1 billion. Yeah, Kylian Mbappe, one of the French superstar, one of the greatest. Well, not one of the greatest. He's on his way to being one of the greatest soccer players ever. Lionel Messi, he plays in he's in what team is he? He's in the States now. He's in Miami. Scored 2 goals last night. So soccer is the biggest sport in the world. But yeah, $1 billion, Dan. Look that up.
We're in
After
the wrong field, man.
Oh
We're in the
man, my
wrong
parents put
field.
me in the wrong sport, man. Shoot, man. I should have kept on
Yeah.
with soccer. Maybe
On the weekend, I forgot to tell you, but on the weekend, I went to the store to get ice because we got like a blending machine, like a Margaritaville machine out back.
yeah.
And ice was like almost $5 a bag. I came home, I said, I'm in the wrong business. Like freeze water and make that much cash. Holy crap.
We're
Like
sales
forget
patterns can
trucking,
be
man.
icy today, It's like
Yeah. Side gigs, side hustles today.
side
But
hustle.
we do have our main man, and is that oh, that's Ryan going. The doggies are going nuts there, Dean. I didn't know if that what was going on there. But we got our main man, Dean Cook, here with us. And as always, Jeff Dickinson jumping in. Jeff, how are you, buddy?
Good, guys. Good.
Dean,
I
how are
think
you,
we have
brother?
a good show today.
Yeah, I'm good. I was just thinking about the sporting numbers. I think the Tour de France is the most watched sporting event, isn't it, globally?
It is. It is
Well,
actually funny enough. I had
bigger
a
than the
bunch of
World.
people.
Yeah, bigger than
it
the
is.
World Cup.
It's
Yeah.
You know what? You know what I love, Dean, and you're like from the you're from Australia. I love how Americans or like Canadians in North America thinks that like everything revolves around them, and then where they're like, oh, this
No.
person's not as famous, and then it's like, okay, go look up like Virat Kohli, who is like the most followed like superstar in cricket of all time. Look at Kylian Mbappe being offered like I think they were saying like LeBron James makes like $50 million, and everyone thinks, oh my god, he's the greatest, and then you got a guy being offered like $1 billion to play soccer. It's pretty crazy to me.
We had. I was watching the cricket this week. They had the finals here between the San Francisco team and the Texas team. Were playing cricket, a limited over match, a one-day cricket game. But it was just so unusual to see cricket on American TV because outside of here, I mean, that's how baseball started, right? As rounders, as an offshoot of cricket. But to see cricket on TV in America and then think it's a massive sport everywhere else in the world.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Here, hockey is traditionally a female sport, whereas everywhere else in the world, it's a massive men's sport. I played hockey all of my life, field hockey on grass.
Yeah.
Or
turf. Okay. I thought you meant like ice hockey. I was like, really?
Yeah, but
in Australia?
I couldn't get a men's hockey game here if I, had $1 billion. It's just impossible because it's either lacrosse or hockey is kind of the definition across the sexes. But you're right, Ryan. Outside of America, there are some sports that are absolutely massive, but here they kind of don't exist.
Yeah.
Which is good. I'm not complaining.
So what doesn't exist in the logistics world? Truckload freight or what? That was a good segue.
Yeah. Well, it's I mean, most of the freight in Australia moves LTL. but which is, you wouldn't realize it, but most of it's LTL in highly consolidated floor side load trailers, and lots of them. So it's kind of truckload, but you're depot to depot, but you're going to have a lot of LTL consignments in there because of the distance.
Oh, LTL consolidated is one of the best ways to make
a
lot of money and serve a ton of people in the North American market.
Yeah.
If you can get enough LTL to consolidate, it's a gold mine.
We would run all of our trailers were drop deck curtain-sided trailers with 3 separate mezzanine floors that were adjustable by forklift, lightweight aluminum floors. So you could put you could separate all of your freight and put all your really ugly, hard to consolidate freight right up the top, and then lift your rack right up. And so you're full to the roof, not overweight, but you could consolidate every cubic foot that you had, or cubic meter.
You didn't run one truck that was overweight?
Oh, no, 1 out of 5 would always be overweight. 1 out of 5. So here's the trick.
Yeah.
They've all got to look the same. You got out of 4, the 5 have got to look the same. And the one that's heavy has got to look no different than the others. A bit more weight, a bit more air in the tires, and a lot more horsepower under the hood. So it doesn't look heavy up the road.
Until you get pulled over.
I was so naive when I was first starting out that when I would have an overweight shipment and the customer would be like, yeah, it's a couple thousand pounds overweight, I'd tell the trucking company, just put less fuel in.
Oh God! And that was the last time they worked with Dan.
No,
it's a one and done.
It was. I remember.
Less fuel, stop more.
Yeah, less fuel, stop more. I remember clear as day. They were saying, "Listen, we're overweight. We're gonna when we get to the scales, we're gonna be overweight. Just put a half tank in. Just don't fill up the tanks." He's like, "What? What did you just say?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
By 100 gallons.
Because fuel weighs a lot, right? And the guy on the other end of the phone's like, "Dude, are you new?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah, it's like eight pounds a gallon, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Diesel's heavy, man.
Yeah.
Heavy.
Yeah.
There's a digital breadcrumb left everywhere these days. Squeaky clean.
Yeah. But yeah, I remember that as clear as day. The guy on the other end of the line was like, "What did you just say? Like, are you serious right now?" And I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of gas stations everywhere, man. You can fill up like 4 times. Thinking the guy's going to pull into an Ultramar.
Just plan your route with a lot of gas stations available.
Yeah. And get some Twinkies on the way at each stop in care of me, Got some Twinkies, get some Joe Louis, Flakies.
And it's got to be there tomorrow at 9 a.m.
But I'm excited, boys. I'm excited. I'm really for today's topic, especially that because Dean, I've made it a point to start talking to more people. And in my conversations, especially people across the board, like I got on a prospecting call with a brand new prospect. The first thing he said is like, "Are you burnt out?" And I was like, "No, I'm not burnt out." And usually it's like everybody around now is just burnt out. You see everything kind of going down. Everybody I talk to, commission sales reps, they're all saying they're slow across the board. Their numbers have gotten like completely down. So there's definitely a correlation with that. And with today's topic about, I would love to learn like what's in the crystal ball you got for us, Dean?
Yeah. I was doing some research when I was writing my weekly blog post on Sunday, or it's actually Saturday this week, and the phrase "the dog days of summer" was I couldn't get it past my thinking because it felt like the dog days of summer, but I didn't really know what that meant, so I looked it up, and the dog days of summer is the 20 days either side of last Sunday. It's from July 3rd to August 11. It's a period of time when the Sirius star, known as the dog star, is at its brightest in the horizon. And in old days, it was sort of associated with when it was really hot and people really didn't really do a whole lot. So the dog days of summer is sort of is the next 20 days at last technically, but it's a period. It's like when a lot of the major sporting events sort of don't happen here. It's been a term that's sort of been thrown around to describe a very Malaysical time. And that's what the freight market is doing right now. It's sort of, we're in this sort of dog days of summer period. And it's no different, I think, than what we've talked about all year. And that is that, there's no big demand triggers this year that will cause us to haul more freight. As Jason Miller said on the show yesterday, if you've got $5,000 extra to spend, it's very different than spending $5,000 on airfares versus $5,000 on freight that we haul or move. And he said we are spending more on services and less on goods. So there's that going on. There's general consumer confidence concerns. We've got fewer homes being built. The one thing he said, because we asked him on the show, what's your outlook? Because for the most part of this year, we've been thinking that we would see some sort of an upturn towards the end of the year. After listening to Jason yesterday and seeing how the numbers are panning out, he said it'll be early 2024 before this market turns, which it makes sense now that I look at the underlying data. It's certainly the direction that our market is heading in the spot market, because we've been very clear that on our pessimistic model, in case 2020-19 reemerges for carriers and brokers, it's looking more and more like that every single day. When I look at the year-over-year trends and compare the last 3 freight recessions, and I look at the spot rates day to day, they're tracking identically. There's a different, they're different in terms of the rate per mile variance between the two, but directionally they're all tracking identically. There's a lot of strong seasonality in the market. This is what we call the dog days of summer, where there's just not much happening until we get into peak traditional back to school shopping season leading into Thanksgiving and retail season. Not a lot of demand triggers there that would tell us that we're going to see a significant uptick in volume. What he did say though was we've still been moving more freight than we did in 2018 and 2019. And it's the same whether you look at housing or a number of other data points. We're still doing more. We're still moving more freight. Of course, the problem is we've still got more trucks in the market. So it's a...
Oh.
Was that the cliffhanger? It's you're still we can't hear you again, buddy. There you go.
Yeah, I've got a problem with my microphone. It keeps resetting itself every now and then, and I go quiet.
I didn't notice.
But
so this in the industry, a bit of a shock to the system was diesel went up 10 cents a gallon this week. That means operating costs have gone up about 1.5 cents per mile. So whilst June was a reprieve because there was some increase in rates around July 4, rates have started to come back down again this week and diesel went up. Worst case scenario for carriers is that rates keep dropping and diesel goes up. So we could be on the precipice of another sort of a push of carriers out of the industry, those carriers that have been marginal. If it doesn't happen quickly, it certainly is happening on a much slower trajectory. Because with margins, carriers are getting by, as we've said here, they're getting by, but they're still a breakdown away from going out of business because the rates just aren't sufficient for them to be viable. So we're in this sort of crossover period. Listening to, and I really respect Jason Miller's views. I think he's one of the smartest data analysts in the trucking industry. And, when he says things like, the manufacturing industry or manufacturing numbers are down, is a gloomy outlook, that the market is kind of soft. And he said in a post last week that he's seen one of the steepest declines in paper manufacturing. It's down 9% year over year. Paper manufacturing is the 4th most influential commodity in his truckload ton mile index, which is tracking. It's a very accurate representation of where demand is. So when you look at some of those things, and he did say that he's still seeing evidence of shippers destocking, which will depress the normal peak season shipping volumes we see. So when you look at all of that put together, it's a fairly gloomy outlook. Yes. And that'll put pressure on broker margins. It'll put a lot of pressure on carriers, especially those that have been marginal and been relying on diesel prices decreasing. The fact they went up 10 cents this week, we've got to watch that very closely. I said on an interview this morning I had on a radio show that one of the most important things we've got to watch over the summer, I think, for carriers is the movement in diesel prices. Because this, the next 6 months, that'll determine how this market turns, because we're just not seeing any demand signals. I sort of concluded the interview saying that this could be one of the toughest quarters we've seen this quarter. Like I thought it would have been first quarter. And the way things are shaping up, normal peak season may not be what we would normally think. Nope. And I don't think anybody's got the exact answer, but that's kind of the trajectory of where we're heading. Is not a lot of demand, fairly flat demand. He said demand will be flat for the rest of this year. That's consistent with where we see the market. And but I was a little bit surprised to hear him start to talk about 2024 as being when he thought it might be Q2. Yep. Because traditionally Q1 is very quiet regardless. So that's kind of where we see it. It's
So there's a couple of interesting points there. Do you think, and it'd be something that I'd care to explore, and Ryan's really kind of shown me this piece, is I used to use a lot of paper. Now I do most things online.
Yeah.
Right. So that paper reduction, I mean, I would assume it's not toilet paper and paper towel, because that's kind of stuff we use all the time. But a lot of the generations below mine are not printing papers. Everything's online. You know, you look at the Rocket Book that I use, which is like a reusable notepad, where it's, you know, I buy it once, I've used it for 2 years. I haven't bought actual notepads in 2 years. And you just kind of take a picture of them and they go into your Google Drive, and the way that the entire, I'm not even going to say industry, but globally, you know, that you know, recycle, don't use paper, like edible PDFs instead of printing them. And
just to add to that, Dan, like I'm really curious about that point that you said, Dean, about that Jason Miller said about paper being down, because even though paper, like I just bought a printer for the first time in like 5 years. I bought it like last week, but we look at the opposite. I don't know about you guys, but you go to Starbucks, you go to McDonald's, everything is paper straws now. You know, so you look at that production that's like risen like to the top.
Yeah,
everything is paper, you know, and it's just like when you compare it to actually like pulp and stuff like that, like you look at it too. No one's using newspapers. I don't remember the last time I saw newspaper.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah, newspaper for sure. Magazines, like I see them there, but like realistically, who's buying magazines anymore? Right. So when you look at those two things as well, it's pretty interesting to see. I love
online subscriptions for all of that.
Right. I mean, look at you know, inbound logistics and supply chain brain and all of that. I mean, you used to get those periodicals sent to you by mail.
Right.
You can go right online and get that.
Yep.
You know, so I mean, anything that has to do with reading, it's all online. Books, you can get online. You can listen to Audible. Right. I mean, think about how big that industry as a whole is and the impact that it had over the last 10 years as they've been exiting and doing everything electronically. I mean, big hit.
You know, I mean, Dan Damon's got a good question in there. If we're comparing 2019 freight levels to today's freight levels, he's absolutely right. I mean, what he's getting at, interest rates have absolutely crushed. I mean, a lot of shippers, in terms of their holding cost of excess inventories, has been a really big factor. It's costing us a lot more. The reason why it's a little bit scary, I think, from a truckload capacity perspective, is that the rates are about 10 cents a mile higher, not adjusted for inflation or anything, but about 10 cents a mile higher than 2019. But operating costs are, I think, up way over that when you take into account the impact of inflation on running trucks. So I think he's absolutely right.
I think we're going to see a huge exodus starting in September. I mean, you know, in New Jersey, we've seen hikes of 13 cents a gallon, like overnight. If that happens, whole new ball game on diesel. And that's not out of the question, guys. That's not out of the question. That just could happen in the next couple of weeks. I mean, or even a month.
Well, you know, if you look at it from a new carrier getting in, for example, right, that jumped in through COVID, probably made a lot of money.
Yep.
If I wasn't established, I'd probably jump out.
Yeah.
I'd be like, you know what, made a couple $100,000 in my pocket over a couple of years, you know, put 200, I'm going to go look at something else, or I'm going to sell my fleet to a company that's established and has an established customer base. Because let's face it, guys, I said it the other day, like, it depends on what market you're in that you're really seeing the impact, right? Like pharmaceuticals. There's really no recession in pharmaceuticals. Those volumes, if you look at those volumes year over year over year over year, they're still skyrocketing high. You know, I don't know about the US, but I can tell you, we cannot get enough material and trucks for the volume of brick that's coming into Ontario. It is absolutely friggin' insane. One of my customers is brick, 4 million bricks behind. And their main supplier in the US said, we're out of stock. We have to shut down for a week to manufacture more bricks. They have 5 kilns going for bricks that they're at full capacity at their facility. Every one of their facilities at full capacity, and they still can't produce enough brick for their customer. Their major supplier shut down because of raw materials So the whole market's coming to them, and it's like anarchy. We were doing 7-8 loads a day for weeks, and then they said, "Listen, we have no more product. We have to make product." And like, you know, so that volume was throttling until yesterday. Yesterday is the first day we didn't have any loads in weeks. And we're pulling trucks from everywhere, and it wasn't very easy to find trucks.
Dan, what's driving the demand? Is it homes, residential construction?
Yeah, residential construction. Like just in the call it 5 square miles of my house. There's 860, 720, 120. There's over like 1,100 homes being built right now.
Yep.
So
And that's just 5 square miles, like around me, not even towards Mississauga or out where Ryan is or anything. Like it's crazy around here.
But lumber's a better insulator than brick. So is it the fact that they can't get enough lumber? Well, it's too expensive, or is it a building ordinance?
No, they're. I mean, the typical build around here is brick homes.
Yeah, it's all brick. Really? I haven't seen a wooden home. Yeah, I haven't seen
like a board and batten. You mean, Dean? Like a board and batten home? Yeah. No, you don't. I mean, you see them a lot in country homes. If you do like that country style home, but I mean, people reface their brick homes afterwards with. But most subdivisions that go up, it's like brick homes.
Right. Yeah, I've only lived in brick. Either brick or vinyl. Vinyl is like the one off. Like they'll make like 5 brick homes and then 1 vinyl. 5 brick homes and then 1 vinyl. But
even half brick, half vinyl. They'll kind of mix and match it. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, so I think the paper. It's really interesting. It could paper could be all encompassing. It could include cardboard.
I mean, think about all the apps out there today that do the stuff we used to do with paper.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we've talked about this too. Like I started getting back in the gym with a personal trainer, and I thought about myself a couple of years ago where I'd go with a pen and pad and write down my workouts. Right. Like, and it's just like little simple things like this. And gents, we were making that change too. Like it's crazy to me because like grocery stores. I don't know how it is in the States, but Dean, like where you either bring a reusable bag, which is whatever, or like there's no more like paper or plastic bags anymore. So you take that away from production as well. So the paper one kind of that one hits because like that's something that you always see paper around you. Even when you go to your mailbox, you're always flooded with like spam, like flyers and all that stuff. Right now, we just get like stuff that's actually for us. Like whether it be our bills or something, and even bills, right? You look at bills too. Like even bills were gone electronic. Like it's yeah.
We literally only get like 3-4 pieces of mail, and most of it is stuff from Amazon.
Right.
Yeah.
Like and those flyers that people put in, but all of our bills are electronic. All of our bills are automatically billed to our credit cards, and then the statements are like it's. I think one of my credit cards is the only one that actually sends me a bill, and I keep telling them, stop sending me a bill, just give it to me digitally, and they still don't have it. But
so the thing that I'm noticing is there's some. You can hear me, okay, guys?
Yeah.
I was looking at some. I was looking at proteins because we talk a lot about produce in the refrigerated market. We know produce volumes are down. We've been labouring that point for a long time. But I was looking at the other components of refrigerated haulage, which is more your proteins, your beef, poultry, lambs, beef, all those sorts of things. And I was looking at the pounds of production this week. And when you think about the impact of drought, higher feed prices, farmers, there's less inventory of things like cattle, pork. So what it's meant when it translates to the number of pounds that trucks would haul out of meatworks, it's about 6% less than this time last year, and it's lower than the 5-year average. I'm just trying to figure out some ways to get this into a dashboard so I can figure out what the impact is. But when you look at different markets and you say, well, why are refrigerated rates so low and why is demand so soft? It's a combination of things across multiple markets. Like there's still all of this sort of impact at different market levels, whether it be drought in California. We've got higher feed costs and drought affecting cattle production numbers. So there's all sorts of things going on that's just making it a market that's really soft. It's not. I don't think it's any one thing. It's a combination of things that's really impacting us.
I believe that. I truly believe it, especially when you're talking about feed. So, Dean, we get our food from it's a local company in our area, but they actually source. We feed our dogs raw food, so it's actually raw meat.
Yep.
So they actually outsource the raw food from butchery in Quebec. So they get it shipped over here. We buy it. They make a couple change on it and stuff like that. It literally comes in a bag. There's like coal on it, so that they can charcoal on it. Sorry, so they can like differentiate and stuff like that. They've actually closed from, and they gave us the warning, but that like facility has closed for a month. And mind you, we're just getting dog food, so they obviously have to produce like other like human consumption as well.
Oh,
So
right,
think
right.
about that, right? They're closed for a month there. You look at other places. I don't know about you guys, but like when I talk to my friends in my circles, you know, we're looking at going a little bit meatless, right? Whether it be inflation or we just want to do things for the environment. I don't eat meat on Monday and Fridays. I've removed like beef and pork from my diet just for health reasons. So when you look at those different things, I know Americans love their meat and stuff like that, so I don't see that really changing. But for us in Canada here, it's just I feel like meat is becoming a treat because of inflation.
Yeah, or it's people focusing more on health, right? Like you said, beef and pork. You know, when the Game Changers came out on Netflix, like you got to remember these movies have power.
Yep,
they really do. And the science and the data behind it, when you got like guys like Arnold Schwarzenegger saying, yeah, you know, I used to eat 250 grams of protein every day because I was 256 pounds, and that was all meat. Now it's not. Now it's you know, he's a vegetarian, and it's like you have these people that look up, like, and it's trust me, my wife and I saw that movie, and for like we tried some of this stuff, right? And it's good. You know, I remember being in Calgary, and a buddy of mine took me out for lunch. He took me out for cauliflower chicken wings.
Yeah,
where it's not really chicken wings, they're cauliflower.
Yeah,
cauliflower buffalo wings, and they were friggin' good.
Yeah.
But it's like I don't know. I mean, you know, personally, I'm walking through the store and I see steaks for $43 for two.
Yes.
I'm probably not picking them up.
Yeah. Well, you see people like hounding around, and that's where like the addition of things like there's apps right now where, hey, if food is set to expire, like you can get it at a discount. But you know, I know we're talking about this and we talk about this quite a bit, but I want to come back to Dean's statement at the beginning when he was kind of like talking about, you know, what Jason Miller's outlook. For me as a freight broker, for everyone who's like, I mentioned that people feel like they're burnt out and things like that. What is some of your advice? And Dan, I'd love to get your advice as well, because you both went through like 2018 and 2019. What advice can you guys give to like reps out there where it's like, hey, Jason Miller says we're not going to get better until Q2. You know, when I kind of hear that, if I'm brand new, I'm like, hey, maybe it's time for a career change or something like that. So what advice do we have everybody for the trenches really to finish out the year and not necessarily get and crawl into that, but at the end of the day, build a sustainable business so that they don't have to worry about the doom and gloom when you see like the yellows and the UPS and the Teamsters and be like, hey, that doesn't really affect me.
I was asked that question. Yeah, I will. I was asked that question this morning on this radio interview, and they said, what advice would you be giving brokers and carriers? And I said, I would be thinking about the next market cycle, because everybody's sort of thinking about the current market cycle. The reality is that we're going to start the next market cycle with fewer trucks, and that means you're going to need capacity. I'd be looking to build relationships now with my capacity. And so if I was in a broking position, I'd be wanting keeping my guns, my go-to workhorses busy. Right, I'd want to feed them as much as I could, give them a fair rate, but keep them busy and keep them in business. Because when the market turns, what are we going to go back to, right? Are we going to go back to this craziness where we're going to be picking? Because in the spot market, right, you're going to, when you go for lower, you know, when you start to go for those more volatile, you know, prices, you compromise service, because you're going to go to a carrier maybe you don't know or have any control over. So I think what I'd be doing is working very diligently now on locking in my capacity right now for the next market cycle, because there is an inevitability that, I mean, if carriers have got this far into the current market cycle, there's a good chance they'll be able to survive, notwithstanding the fact we've just said diesel prices could go up even more. That's a whole other story. So I'd be thinking about the next market cycle is what I would be doing right now, because that's early 2024. Shippers are already thinking about it. They're thinking about capacity. And if I was a carrier right now, I'd be looking for those brokers that have, you know, not necessarily, if you're a small carrier, it might be looking for those lanes where someone has low volume lanes they need help with.
Mm-hmm. I would second that motion. I mean, you know, we've lived through quite a few ups and downs in the freight market. It always comes back up, always.
Right.
You know what? And the things we say on here, we don't know for sure. Like, we could tell you what past was, we can tell you what the data says, we can tell you the projections, but it's not 100% guaranteed. We've been wrong a few times.
Right.
And if you give up and kind of just, you know what, and just don't do it, and don't keep building those relationships, any one of your customer at any time can pop, because their salespeople are trying to get more customers as well. Like, it's a chain, right? Your customers slow, their salespeople are being told, get more business, get more business, get more business. One of their competitors goes out of business, they double their business overnight, right? Like, we never know when these things are going to happen. And so I agree. Focus on the next freight cycle. It's like Ryan said a couple of times, you know, where do I want to be at Christmas? And you know, and is it going to be in Q2 next year? Maybe. Is it going to be in Q4 this year? Maybe. We don't know. It depends on your industry. It depends on what commodities you move. It depends on what equipment you have. You know, like, produce haulers are doomed to the weather. Weather conditions are causing huge issues in produce growth. There's nothing they can do about that, right? It's coming from different areas. We have to start buying it from different places. But general commodities, you know, you look at my one customer, brick customer, for example, if they had the product, they could have almost doubled and tripled their business overnight because their competitor shut down. Right? Like, and this is going to happen in every single market. Every market, you know, Monster Energy is going to lose sales to whatever the next one is, because somebody can still go into a store and get them for $5 for 2 instead of $7.
Yeah.
Right. So it's this juxtaposition in every market. And I would say start diversifying. I'd start really understanding your market, like what drives it, right? Like where you are, your areas you haul out of, what drives it, and having the conversations. What is driving your business now? What is it that your outlooks are for coming forward? Because I think, and you guys could probably agree, I think just in general, in life, people get tied up into the now.
Yeah.
And not saying that, you know, like this is what it is now. They already forget what it was like 12 months ago, where money was raining in.
Right.
And 24 months ago, when money was raining in, but 24 months ago, we were already telling you, like, this is the high, there's always a low, and this is the freight world. And it's constant, whether it be exchange rates, fuel, freight recessions, too many people coming in because it's a great freight market, and so many people want to cash in on becoming a carrier. And like, we've seen it all. It's numb to me now, to be honest with you. And I'm sorry that it's too blunt for some people, but you know what? Keep working. I had a buddy of mine during the bottoming out of the economy. He just had a schedule. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, he would be out on the road seeing clients. Tuesday, Thursday, he would generate his meetings for Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And for like a year, this guy just pumped and didn't see any results. And then all of a sudden, within 3 months, he was the top salesman in in all of North America. Right? It's like bamboo. You plant it, keep planting it, keep nurturing it, and before you know it, you're gonna have a 9-foot stalk. Like that. That would be my suggestion.
No, I like that. I like the freight cycle. Everybody, that's a big takeaway for myself to think about that as well, right? To think about those things. And you're right, Dan. I feel like, you know, it's. I would assume this happens in all industries that has sales focus. Like, you know, like we only look at the now, because the now is what gets us paid. We don't kind of look like down the road, or even if we're way too busy, you know, if you're a cradle to the grave rep and you don't have time to do this. But it's things like this that give that education, though, that it gives that thought provoking. So, you know, like if you're not, anybody who's watching right now, if you're not at the place that you want to be right now, take a step back, you know, and really, really look at what you're doing and look at the efforts that you're putting in. Because like for me, it's just like consistency will always beat like thinking, hey, maybe I should make some calls. Maybe I should go to the gym. Maybe I should eat healthy and different things like that. Right. So
I once heard a saying, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
There we go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So,
right, gentlemen, do you have anything else, Dean, or?
Not really. I just, you know, I don't want to sort of be too doom and gloom, but you know, we've sort of always said, we've been pretty open and honest all of this year that we had 2 cases. Pessimistic case was always a 2019 year would reemerge. Best case scenario, we would see inventories, drawn down, a little bit of a boost around July 4, which we kind of saw a bit of a boost in the market, and then a normal peak season. I think it's suffice to say that I think peak season will be fairly flat, as what, if we take into account what most economists are telling us. We probably won't see any sort of a bump on the import side if people are still destocking from bloated inventories last year. So it means that we're still, it just looks like a 2019 year. Certainly does in the spot market, which was an oversupplied market. And I know it sounds like I'm not being very definitive, but this is really hard to call what's going to happen in this market, because in the truckload carrier side of it, when we look at the interstate carriers, the long-haul carriers in the spot market, which is our bread and butter business, they're highly influenced by the price of diesel. And if it goes up, then it's a whole new ball game. If it continues to go up, then that'll push more carriers out of the market, which hastens the next market cycle, which means the market will tighten sooner than later. So, whilst it's bad news for carriers on the way out, on the other side of the market for those that remain, spot rates will start to go up because capacity tightens in that sector. That's why relationships are important. You've got to be able to have good relationships so you can be with people when they need you, and they can look after you when it's quiet.
Well, you build those relationships, right? And these are the times, like, even if it's a time where it's slow right now, even if it's like people are not responding to like your message and stuff like that, use that time to educate yourself, learn about the industry and truly like educate yourself. Just don't read a couple articles and think you're an expert. Like, truly, like, go to things. I believe DatCon is coming in October. Make the time and go to that and listen to everybody who's out there. The Women in Trucking ones coming out. Go to conferences. There's so many free webinars. And the one thing that Dan and I are learning with Bridger, and sorry to give a little plug here, so it's like, even if we don't know something, we will invest the time to do it, right? Because this is something brand new. This is SaaS, so we're learning about the SaaS market and things like that. So it's really you versus you at the end of the day. And I just want to drive that home with everybody, because all the conversations I'm having with people is just, it's doom and gloom for there. Did you hear about this? Did you hear about that? I think, what was that company, Dean, that shut down yesterday? I think Surge, right? I had some people send me messages about that, and I'm like, I've never heard of them, and it's not to say that anything bad. I'm sorry for everybody who's affected by it or things like that. But, it's like watching like the mainstream media, like focus on the things that affect you and, and your customers and your amazing carriers and things like that.
Adam Wingfield said that. Yeah, Adam Wingfield said that on a show last week. He said, I asked him what advice he would give a young Adam Wingfield starting out as an owner-operator. And he would say, control what you can. Yes. The rest of it's just noise, which I think would be great advice.
Yeah.
Control what you can.
Educate yourself into the person you want to be.
So there's an interesting saying I've always had, and I'm not sure where I got it, but the problem with the analogy of the grass is always greener on the other side is that you've got to take yourself with you.
Yeah.
Right. So
I think the thing is that it's greener where you water it, right?
Right.
Where you water it. And I think like that. And I love that. So, Dean, what do you have? Like, can you tell us a little about the upcoming guests on DAT IQ Live? Because there's a lot of value. Like, if you're only, if you're not listening to that episode, like that weekly Tuesday episode, you're really missing out.
Yeah, we've got Dustin Jalbert on next week. He's an expert in the lumber market, so I'm going to be grilling him on a lot what's been happening with Canadian lumber, especially to do with the fires and the that beetle that's been eating trees on the eastern side of mountains forever. So he's on our show. He's an expert in the lumber market. That'll be next Tuesday. The other big event that I think people, especially on this audience, should be thinking about is CSCMP. It's the big supply chain premier event in Kissimmee, Florida, October 1 to 4. That's a pretty big event for people in the supply chain logistics industry. I've been to a few of them. It's a really good one. So that's sort of the.
Are you going this year, Dean?
Our shipper team's going. I'm not going. I'm just hopping around on one leg is sort of crimped my style. So our shipper team is going to CSCMP. It's called the Edge Conference. I think that's a really big one. Our DatCon conference is on in October 10 to 12 in Houston. Looking forward to that one. And of course, next week, CDL Life is on next week. It's a conference in Kansas City.
Are you going to get Ryan and I tickets to DatCon?
I know we gotta you gotta get us a cool promo code. But Dean, I got another question for you because this is something we talked about a long time. I'm trying to make up for like the month and a half that I took off of but your wife's catering business, how is that this summer? How is that been going? Has there been a demand? Because we talked about weddings and things like that. I'm
Yeah.
seeing weddings all over the place, but what are you seeing?
Weddings, yes. So sales, it's interesting. Their business is sort of growing year on year. July is the quiet month in catering. So
Mhm.
this is they're doing, some renovating, and what they're doing is doing what we just gave advice on. That's getting ready for the busy period.
Mhm.
They're getting the shop ready. Their business is growing exponentially, largely because they've been able to build out a really good menu and figure out a way to build out their build out their customer base by specializing in a particular niche. So they're doing really well. Catering, so in terms of demand, wedding numbers are kind of down in the US, but their overall catering business is doing exceptionally well this year compared to last. So last year was kind of a catch-up year. This year is going, and I think part of it though is like in our business, Ryan, there's fewer players left. There's fewer players left standing, and I think that's what's going to happen by the end of this year. It'll be who's left standing, because this is going to be a tough period of time for both brokers, logistics providers, motor carriers in particular, truckload carriers. That's why you've got to build those relationships and look after that capacity now. So they're doing well.
I love that you said that, because and it's a testament to everybody who's watching out there. Stick with it and just be in your craft, because even I've seen at weddings and stuff like that, it's always kind of like the same photographers now, and those are the ones who've been in it for like a while, right? So photographers out there, like they're guiding their time. So you look at catering, you look at all the event specialists and things like that. Realistically, when I see weddings, it's always the same people, like the same vendors. Sorry. So it's really, really good to see that. So you got that IQ, you got these amazing conferences that are coming up. We're always happy to have you on, Dean, and thank you for always giving us your message here with your market update. Can you give everybody there's a weekly blog that you do as well? Give people information about that as well.
Yeah, if you first of all, if you've got any questions, you can shoot us an email at askiq@dat.com. That's an email address that we have for all of our general questions. But if you go to dat.com/market update, you'll find my blog post. There's a blog post sort of talking about something topical, but then under each equipment type, there'll be some commentary with all the rates and data and charts that we publish on our IQ show every day. So that's up on Tuesday nights.
Okay, perfect. So definitely we'll be back again next Wednesday. So I want to thank everybody for coming out this morning, spending the time with us on Sales Chatter Live, where we aim to help 10,000 reps, hit $1 million GP in less than 1 year. We'll be back at it again tomorrow at 11 a.m. for another episode. And if you found value in this, please like, comment, share, subscribe. Check us out on the audio downloads, which is like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, and all those fun stuff. And with that being said, thank you again, Dean, and we'll see everybody tomorrow.
Thank you. Thanks, Ryan.
No problem.
Bye, everybody.